Good morning, everyone. My name is Blake Strode, and I'm executive director of an organization called Arch City Defenders. You want to introduce yourself?
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Thank y'all for staying around. My name is Mike Milton. I'm the executive director of an organization in North St. Louis called Freedom Community Center.
So we want to share a little bit about our organizations and our work, and also what we're working on right now that brings us to this space. I just have to say at the outset, I've said before, there are few things more intimidating when it's time to get on the mic than to come after a preacher. And I'm feeling that this morning. This morning it's a preacher and a praise dancer who left us all catching our breath. So I am very happy to be here and appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. On a personal note, I just want to share a little bit about myself. I'm a St. Louis native. I grew up in St. Louis and was away from the area for about 10 years before I came back to join Arch City Defenders. I'm a lawyer by training. I practice law at Arch City, and I started in that work doing much of the work that we heard the pastor talk about this morning in fighting back against systems that disproportionately harm and brutalize Black people and poor people in St. Louis. For me, that was starting in places like Ferguson and Jennings and Normandy and many other municipalities that were engaged in practices around over-policing, over-ticketing, arresting, incarcerating primarily Black folks because they couldn't do so much as pay for a traffic ticket. And so Arch City Defenders has brought litigation all across this region to try to end that practice. And I'm glad to say that we've made some headway. We see a lot less in the number of ticketing and revenue out of those courts. But we know that there's still a lot more work to do, and we do that work every day. At a high level, we are a holistic legal advocacy organization. For us, what that means is we do a few different primary things, and we try to integrate those together. So one is the litigation that I just talked about, litigating against practices that are unjust and that can be violent and that can have generational harm. But we also work individually. The core of what we do is individual representation of people who need it. So our legal services are free. We don't charge anything for folks who come in that have criminal and civil legal needs. We also provide wraparound social supports. We have a social services team that helps people secure housing or access to benefits or transportation. As we know, the needs are multiple and they are significant in our region. And so we never have a shortage of need coming through our doors to access those services. But then the work that brings us into partnership with folks like FCC, who you'll hear about, and Action St. Louis, is our work out in the community. So we do work in the courtroom, as we say, and we do work in the community. And that community work is really built around building power at the grassroots level to shape the systems that shape our lives. That's how we think about it. And so that means we partner on campaigns. Some of you may have heard about the campaign to close the workhouse. That was a partnership with Arch City Defenders and Action St. Louis, and previously the Bail Project when Mike was at that organization. And we have campaigns around housing and tenants' rights. We have campaigns around shifting public safety funding. So we hear this word defund that sounds so scary to folks, but really what we want is more money in our communities. We want money to serve people, money to support people for health care and mental health and education and all the things that make us safe and whole and thriving. We don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. And we think our people deserve that. And so that's some of the work that we do at Arch City Defenders. I want to let Mike say a little bit about Freedom Community Center. And then the third leg of this stool that couldn't be here this morning is Kayla Reed, who's the executive director of Action St. Louis. You may have heard of that organization. So we'll give a brief overview of Action. But as the pastor said, they suffered a loss. There was a horrible car accident last night, and one of their team members was killed in that accident. And so Kayla couldn't be here this morning. So Mike, maybe you can share a little about Freedom Community Center.
Yeah, how y'all doing again? All right, I love the call and response. It feels so good to me. I will say one more thing. Literally from walking to my car to this building, so many people greeted me and made me feel so warm. Like, this is how this is supposed to feel. I just want to thank y'all so much for making this opportunity for us to share in the potential partnership. So again, Mike Milton, Executive Director of Freedom Community Center, and we focus our work on healing and also building power. So what we do is that we support survivors of violence in their healing process, and this is survivors of violence who survived serious violence. So those who've lost loved ones, those who have been unfortunately impacted by gun violence, stabbings, deep harm in our communities. And what we do is we work with them is to support them, but we also work with them to dream and imagine of alternative systems that actually keep us safe, that both supports them, but also funnels real investment into our communities. And so we know that our school systems have not been invested into. We know that our health care systems and access to health care systems are far away from us. We know that we don't have the same access to substance use treatment in our communities. And so for us, what does it look like to meaningfully demand that we have investment into our community so we can have access to safety, healing, and wholeness? What that looks like, just as an example, is that we use transformative justice and restorative justice practices to forge healing for our folks. So for an example, we got a young man in our process. His name is Bruce. Unfortunately, Bruce was driving a car and recklessly and harmed somebody. The car spun out of control, and his best friend, unfortunately, who was in the passenger seat, died. They charged Bruce with second-degree murder, armed criminal action, and some other charges, misdemeanor charges as well. And so Bruce, this frail private school kid, black kid, unfortunately was locked into the City Justice Center for over 19 months because of this incident. The family never got a response from the legal system. They were deeply traumatized by the harm that happened. They were forgotten. And so our team, whose therapists, behavioral health specialists, and community health workers, worked with that family to help them bury their baby, help them get headstones, helped them, gave them access to therapy. So we did family therapy with them. We did healing circles with them. And at the same time, we advocated for Bruce to be released. We worked with Bruce and assigned him a mentor. We helped him get a job. He did so much work. Thank y'all. But one of the things that Bruce dealt with was that he also lost his best friend. And so our team facilitated a process where we both had the harm party, the family, and Bruce. And we had a dialogue about what does it mean to repair the harm that happened? How do we acknowledge and honor the person who was lost? How do we heal from this? And Bruce made an agreement to practically repair the harm that happened that day, designed by the survivor, right? What I saw in that moment after they hugged was this beautiful, powerful moment of forgiveness that happened between them. Bruce and the survivor family last week went to the courtroom and they asked for Bruce's cases to be dropped. Yeah. Bruce is free. The case, they granted it. He's free. In addition to that, Bruce, while he was incarcerated, he was being brutally beaten inside of the jail. Next week, Bruce, along with the family who's tagging along, will stand in front of the city and tell them about the abuse that happened inside of the jail. So not just do we see this beautiful opportunity of forgiveness, but we also see this beautiful opportunity to talk about our power and to use our power so that we can have investment to our communities. And so that's what we do at FCC. I didn't bring no cards. I'm not good with that. But I'm happy to share and stay a little bit after so I can learn more about our work. We want to support y'all as well. And ultimately, the reason why we stand in front of y'all is because we want partnership. We know that our people, black people, poor people, people in this neighborhood has been starving and has been harmed by violence themselves. So what does it look like for us to heal as a community?
Amen. All right. No, thank you. And so we're going to be hearing more from them about what that partnership is going to look like, but I just wanted New Northside to hear about the work. First of all, if you didn't know about our city defenders, y'all just give them a hand. And I didn't know about the work that they were doing. This is good. This is good to hear. And so aren't you glad, despite all the harm, There's young brothers working together to address the harm. You hear me? There's young brothers and sisters working together to address the harm, and so we ought to be grateful. Let's give them a hand one more time, Northside. Thank y'all for sticking around.